There is no reason. Don't feel free to not have your camera on or turn on your mic. Feel free to do any of that. Um, I'm a lot more. I'm gonna be a lot more lax with uh, you guys because you're second years than I am with the first years, or than I was with the first years. Um, Mostly because there's less of you. Do you guys know how many are in your class? Like approximately? Like 55? Okay. Okay, I'll wait a bit longer. I guess the class doesn't technically start until 11:10, so I'll give until at least then. And if we're not close to that number by then, uh, we will wait a bit longer. Just an FYI, I am recording this. Um, so yeah, I am. There is a new repo link that'll be in the slideshow. I'll be making it go live once class starts. There's a slideshow. They're both up on Canvas. They just aren't visible to you, not yet at least. Actually, important question: which mic is this one using? Should make sure it's using the right mic. Oh, it is not using the right mic. Hello? This should be clearer. I've already put a note for the tutorial link in the announcement section. I've already made an announcement about the tutorial. It's posted on Canvas. There's an in lecture exercise today. Yeah, yeah, it's for marks. That's something that'll be explained during the PowerPoint. Um, Assuming this works like well and we don't have any technical difficulties, I'll just use Google Meet for the semester. I used Kaltura for most like all the semester last year for both the classes I TA'd, and it was okay. No, the in the wait the ILE no ILEs are in lab activities or in lab. It was ILA or ILE. We just went with I just went with ILE to be more consistent with um Tom's. It's due at the end of the day. It is not due um it's not due at the end of class. Um I mean we can. Uh yeah, so the new version of Otter is identical to the one that you were using. With the exception that I just moved the code from the samples. I moved the graphics code from the samples into a module instead. Okay, so how actually that's an interesting question. How many of you were not in intro to um, computer graphics last semester? Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay. Um, gonna be um specifically what's going to happen is see I'm still new to Otter. Otter is the other TA's framework that was created over the past 2 years. He's been making it, Sean. Yeah, no, I know. I've been speaking to him like frequently, all the time. Um, we speak regarding like everything, and he's he's catching me up. But this is I'm still early on in using it. Uh, yes, he did. Yeah, there were samples inside the repo. I'm gonna be linking his base repo. Actually here. If you would like to, before we start, read a little bit about it. He has a fantastically well written. I could not tell you what you are and aren't allowed to use for GDW specifically. Um, if no you has to do with animations and algorithms, um, can't see it not being allowed. But don't use me as a like. Does no you do animations to like? Oh, okay. If you're not allowed to use it, then yeah. If you weren't, well, if you weren't allowed last semester, that's probably because um, it covered requirements for that semester. This semester, the requirements are much different. Much different. I'm pretty sure Tom has posted the GDW requirements. Um, I'm assuming if it's hers, like hers specifically, you'd need to request permission. Yes. And then I would also recommend talking to Gavin specifically, um, as well, making sure you're allowed to use it in GDW. And as long as you don't use it to do any of your, what can they do, systems? I'm not sure if they're allowed to do it this semester. That wasn't allowed last semester, but it basically there's a library inside of their framework. In fact, it's actually still inside the Otter version that I have. I didn't know it was Samantha's. I just assumed it came with the framework. Um, but there's a library in there that they weren't allowed to use last semester, but they might be allowed to use it this semester. This isn't my like that's definitely not my department to answer. I can't give you guys any definitive answers on that. I can't tell you yes or no because I'm not uh in your GDW or marking your GDW. I'm marking your GDW for this class, and I can tell you if you have a library that does like shadow mapping and like post processing by itself, then no, you wouldn't be allowed to use that because those are requirements. But um, I'm not sure what No You does, and only Samantha and or Gavin would be able to tell you whether or not you're allowed to use it. But it looks like we're at 50, and it's it is skeleton animation. I'm not sure. Our year had to implement them ourselves if we wanted them, but also I'm pretty sure there were a few groups in our class that did use a library like Tiny GLTF to do skeletal. So it's possible that it's allowed, but I would recommend again someone talk to Gavin next GDW class, and definitely someone contact Samantha for permission to use it. Because you definitely shouldn't be using things like that without permission. Oh, did I ever? I don't think I ever sent this in the chat, but this is the original link to Otter. Um, that is the other TA's link. I have my own. I've just forked his repo, and that's where I'll be pushing out tutorial starters, etc., etc. All of that. Um, yeah, let's get started. Just moving over there. No. No, no, no. Almost definitely not. Definitely not today. Take the full 3 hours. It's almost definitely not gonna take the full the it's definitely not gonna take the full 3 hours. It's today is introduction. Just a quick setup with the framework. Um, and what else? Introduction to the schedule that we're doing for this semester. And introduction to your first ILE, which is that will probably take the most amount of time. Um, the Otter framework is really easy to set up. And yeah, those make sense that you have to do the animations yourself because you can't use. That makes sense. That is like a course requirement. But all right. Can everyone see? Should have just shared. I will probably ask questions like that a lot. I haven't used like I use Google Meet for like work meetings, but not for TAing. I've only ever used Kaltura. So I just want to make sure that everybody can see everything, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah. Okay. Well, welcome to Intermediate Computer Graphics. I will be recording um, all these tutorials. So what are we doing today? I'm just going to talk about what we're focusing on for this semester, what our format's going to be for everything. I'm going to introduce our first ILE. You'll have until 11:59 to finish it. Don't worry, it's pretty easy. And any of the ones that I designed that are harder or not like 100% done in the tutorial or not near 100% done in the tutorial, I'll probably give you until the end of the weekend. They won't all be due at the end of the same day, um, but a good chunk of them will be. And then we'll set up Otter Intermediate. You don't actually need to set you don't need to set this up if you have your own modified version of Otter that you intend to use. I've heard from Sean from his GDW marking last semester that a lot of you have modified versions of Otter already. A lot of you have implemented your own stuff, added extra modules, um, and so on. And if you have that kind of stuff, I haven't changed any of the graphics code. I haven't implemented my own graphics code. Yeah, exactly. If you have your own, if you have your own, you can use that. I haven't changed any of the graphics code. So any of the code that we use in future tutorials, that we write in future tutorials, any of that code will be compatible with all of the old code. There should not, as long as you didn't change anything about the graphics code. If you change stuff about the graphics code, I can't really do anything about that. But if you kept most of the graphics code the same, a good chunk of it, like if there's still the same functions and stuff like that, it should all work. The only thing you'll need to change in Otter Intermediate is that the includes. Because now instead of the graphics code being in a graphics folder, it's in a graphics module. And so now it's just a regular include. So you just write the name instead of graphics slash and then the file name. You just write the file name now. And that's it. And yeah. Firstly, I want to congratulate you all for making it to intermediate. Intro to graphics is not the easiest class in the world. It definitely takes skill to finish it and get here. So good job. Pat yourselves all on the back. We'll be good to start with the frame rate. No. That's sorry. That was for the students that had never used Otter before because he has a README at the bottom. I guess I have it on my link too. That explains everything. So that was just so that the people that haven't used Otter before had context for what it is. No problem. No problem. Absolutely no issue. So here's our schedule for the semester. I have laid it out for everyone. Sorry, one second. Google Meet is being weird and covering up half my screen with notifications. Um, so tutorial 1 this week, introductions and initial setup, and we have our ILE 1. Tutorial 2 will be going over frame buffers, and in your lecture that week, you will be going over post-processing effects. And so these frame buffers will get you ready for the next week because you need frame buffers implemented in order to do the post-processing effects. Just this is like a schedule that's been gone over with Tom. This is something that we both worked out together so that I am lining up with your lectures. So everything should apply to the lecture that you have that week, or the asynchronous content that you have that week. Sometimes it won't apply to the lecture; it'll just apply to the asynchronous content. So it's expected because of when your class is that you've already interacted with the asynchronous content by the time you come to the lecture. Look, by the time you come to the tutorial, sorry. So tutorial 3, we've got post-processing effects, and you have your ILE 2. And obviously, I will be giving more information about the ILEs the week that they happen. But for right now, we'll just leave them at ILE 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep in mind your lab percentage of the class is about 10%, I believe. So each of these exercises are worth 2% of your final grade. I should actually. That reminds me. 1 second. If everyone wants to follow along, there is actually I never mentioned it, but it is. They are all uh on Canvas. I didn't mention it, but yeah, no, they're both on Canvas. I made a new tutorial section in Module 2. And yes, the in-lab exercise and the tutorial are both, or the tutorial like PowerPoint are both on there as of right now. So tutorial 4, so you have a midterm that week. It's a practical midterm. Tom will release more information when when we're closer to it. But that week, we will probably be doing an activity in class that directly relates to your practical midterm and will help you complete it. That has not been fully decided, as your midterm has not been fully decided yet. We just want to make sure it's fair, but also accurately tests your skills. In the next tutorial, we have shadow mapping, part 1. Shadow mapping is a big job. You'll learn once we get to it that shadow mapping is a, what's that about a midterm again? Just that it's the tutorial 4 is midterm help, and that we'll be doing an activity in the tutorial that will directly relate to your practical midterm. Keep in mind, all of these lectures are recorded. All these tutorials are recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube and then linked in the in Canvas. And then tutorial 5 is shadow mapping. And so shadow mapping comes in 2 parts, and it's the same with your lectures, I believe. Tom has 2 lectures about shadow mapping, 2 weeks worth of lectures. And so shadow mapping is a big job, which you will find out at the time. But there is an ILE that takes up 2 classes. It's in 2 parts, just to make it more manageable. So each part is worth 1%, and the part will typically be hand in what, like, make sure you followed along in class and hand in what we've done. And then for B, it'll be finish it off and follow along in class, uh, sort of thing. Because shadow mapping is a notoriously hard thing, and it is one of your requirements. And then for tutorial 6, obviously, shadow mapping part 2 and ILE 3B. Tutorial 8, we do not have, or week 8, we do not have a tutorial. And then tutorial 7 and week 9, we have deferred rendering. Deferred rendering, I believe, is also one of your possible requirements. I think you have an option. I could be wrong. It could be a full requirement. But I do know deferred rendering is something that Tom is going to cover in lecture, and he wants me to cover it. Week 8. Week 8 is nothing. There's no tutorial. There's no tutorial. Week 8, there's just no tutorial for that week. Because there's not content that needs to be covered, as well as no, reading week. So I should have mentioned that. Thank you for reminding me. Actually, reading week happens between 5 and 6. The way Tom made the syllabus, he just skipped counting reading week as a week. So if you look at the syllabus, actually, it goes from 6 and then jumps over a full week and counts the week after reading week as week 7. Doesn't count reading week as week 7 like it normally would. So I went with the same format for the tutorial schedule just to make sure that everything's consistent. But the midterm help session is right before reading week, and then shadow mapping part 1 is right after reading week. Mm-hmm. As for tutorial 8, we're doing water effects, which is less about having it apply to your uh, assignment in any assignment that you have in particular. Rather, it's about beefing up your portfolio is the word that I was looking for. It's about beefing up your portfolio and just making sure that it's an important experience. Making water is a big thing for graphics programming. It's a very fun thing, very cool thing. And it was something that my class did, and and it is something that has gotten me jobs. Genuinely, the work that I did in this tutorial was included in my portfolio, and it was part of the reason why I got my first job with the school. So I am definitely all for making sure to have those kinds of things, and as well as your lecture that week has to do with water. So, um, and that's a thing, Andrew. That's why we're going to be going through it. That's why we're going to be going through making realistic water, making tune water that's colored by depth. Those are both things that I did in my courses. I really should have included pictures of them in. I will include pictures of them in the lecture or in the tutorial that we show it, but I can include pictures in it next week if you guys really want to see. But it's cool stuff. Hopefully everyone's excited for that. Water effects are definitely like one of my favorites. Um, I did blend maps and everything like that to create like a whirlpool effect for my GDW game to get full marks in this class, instead of doing physically based rendering. So that was fun. Water effects are near and dear to my heart. There are no pictures this week, but maybe next week. I was just saying that if people wanted to see the water effects, I would show because I have pictures in my portfolio and GIFs of them. Tutorial 9 is an exam review, and then week 12 we don't have any tutorials. That's the last week. There is nothing to cover then. Other than and we also figured we didn't want to give you anything and much to do in this class, given that your GDWs come due week 12, I believe. So, did I say tutorial 9? I thought I said tutorial 8 because it's tutorial 7 deferred rendering and then tutorial 8 water effects. It's all on screen. And then tutorial 9 is exam review, the final exam. As far as I know, Tom hasn't removed the final exam. I'm pretty sure there's still a final exam. Um, I hope he hasn't made any last minute changes. I based this off of the one that was online, so I am assuming that he hasn't made any last minute changes to the syllabus before posting it to you guys. Yeah, that is it. That is it for our schedule. There will be times where it moves pretty fast. I plan on pushing starter code as well as the finished code to the repo that you guys will get the link to later in the slideshow. Um, I plan on pushing all of that, like finished code and stuff like that. Unless the finished code has to do with your ILE, at which point I can't push the finished code. Um, but once I mark the ILEs, I can push the finished code. So that's what I'll probably do. Um, yeah, that should be good. As long as like all the ILEs are marked and like everyone's handed it in, uh, I can push the finished code even if it applied to the ILEs. This way, everyone will have that finished code. But yeah, that's our semester. Quick bits of information for our format. I'll be recording all tutorials, but because of the fact that a lot of our work requires the use of the GPU majorly, as well as I'm going to be streaming my screen to Google Meet, there's a chance that the video could lag. I have an RTX 2070, but I'm pretty sure I have a CPU a bottleneck. It's a mobile RTX 2070 or 3070. Wait, 27? No, 2070. I don't have a 3070. I wish I did. But it's a mobile 2070, and I'm pretty sure I have a CPU bottleneck, at least based on what I've seen. So it's possible that the video could start lagging. I've never uh I haven't done graphics programming with like 3D graphics and shaders while recording while also presenting. I have done 2D graphics and that worked out okay. But it is possible they could lag. I'll be checking out the videos at the end. Um CPU coding? I genuinely don't know what CPU I have if I'm honest. I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. It's an Intel one. I know that. It is an Intel. It definitely is an Intel. Point is that there are, obviously worries that I have, but if I think it's a quad core, I believe it's a quad core. It's not a dual core. I know that. Um, but I will just be checking the videos afterwards. And if they're laggy, I'll try to figure something out to fix it for the next week. But if they're laggy, that means that video will be probably I'll still upload it, but it won't be as helpful as it could be. I'm hoping that it won't be laggy. I know this week's won't be because we're not doing any like full graphics programming. I am using OBS. There's a Meets recording. I don't use Meets. Oh, Wait, okay, I guess I could use. I'll look into that. I'll look into that. I didn't know Meets had a recording thing. Is there? I'm assuming that you knew. I guess still it would be better to use OBS because you guys will get a clearer version of of my code and stuff. I think I'm using NVync. I'm pretty sure. I will check after this tutorial just to make sure everything's set up for next week. Yeah, I use OBS. I have OBS all set up with everything. Um, Sadly, I wish there was a way to always have the Meet chat on screen. I'm gonna look into figuring out a way to get that to work so that like you can still see the messages because right now the messages are not in the recording. Currently, it's just the slideshow. Um, Back to information. Obviously these are things I've talked about. There are specific dates for the ILEs. These are all for marks, but they will all be due like at midnight after the lab. But as I said earlier, it really depends on specifically it depends on um, how intense I thought the in lab exercise was. If I deem it fit, I'll probably make it do more than a day after. It won't just be due at midnight that day. But the ILEs will, for the most part, they relate to content that we want you to do for the assignments specifically. Is it really? Well, well, you can do it again. Free marks. And more practice, because shaders are important. Um, did not realize that was the one he was going to go with, because me and him spoke about shader toys specifically, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that for my in-lab exercise. That's why I have an ILE for the first day. For difficult ones, it'll be completely up to how difficult I feel it is. It'll be more. Um, then I'll add if he just wanted screenshots, not GIFs, then I'll add the extra. I'll add it into the assignment to say that specifically I want animated ones. And I will show you exactly what I mean in just a second. You will see exactly what I mean. The ILEs, though for the most part, relate to specifically your assignments. There are a few that won't relate to an assignment and are more for the experience, like the water one. There will be live exercises every week. For the most part, I'm aiming to push finished code to the repo. It's only not going to happen if I'm required to not. If I show something in class that answers stuff with your midterm, I can't push that. Yeah, you obviously were still able to do it for Tom's, and obviously if you went above and beyond, you could. But what I'm specifically saying, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm gonna do like a live editing of a shader toy to show what I mean specifically when I say animated. This is the reason why Otter is being set up after this. Your ILE is to go to shader toy, find a shader you like, preferably an effect. Those are faster. I'm gonna be honest. Shader toy is very slow on most computers. WebGL is not super optimized. But make modifications so that it looks different, and I'm gonna add the added caveat of make sure it's an animation, or make sure it's like an animated effect. Make sure you're not just changing the color and that's all. I don't want you to just change the color. I want you to change and do something with, for example, eye time. Yeah, that's why I don't go to shadertoy.com. I go to Google and search shadertoy simple effects or shadertoy post processing effects on Google and just go through Google to figure out which ones I want to use. Because shader toy is very laggy on the homepage. Make a modification to it, submit a GIF. I recommend Gyazo. I love Gyazo. Will always, uh, yeah. If you make it to the toon shading is not a small change. That's not a small change. That that is a big change. Changing the type of shading, that is definitely a big change. I would count that as a big change. But the Dropbox on canvas is active. I hope you guys can see it. But this is what I mean. So this is the original effect. All it did was make it a film grain. All it did was make it like grainy, make the photo grainier. What I did was I made it so it's a recording, a grainy like a grainy recording. So it's an animated effect now. And what we're gonna do is go to go over here. So this is a version of film grain that already has all of this in. This is the one I was looking for. This is the one I did. Back to the meat. Changes color by 1. Yeah, that's not gonna. I may give you because I made it out of 2. I'll probably give you half marks for something like that. But I'm gonna be pretty easy with these, obviously. But the point here is it's just like the simple way to do this is multiplied by noise, I believe, or no. See, now I'm panicking because I already did this before. No, I don't care about the before and after. Oh, here it is. Color minus noise time. How do I get the texture? The texture's already in here. This is just a random. This is just a random. You already handed in screenshots. For mine for the ILE or for the in class one, because they're the same thing. But I think we both have me and him have different requirements for what we want. The in class one, no. You don't need gifts for the in class one. This is the in lab one. Yeah, this one's different. I'm requiring gifts. I want gifts, and I would like it if you did a different shader and edited a different shader. Didn't do the same one. I'm not gonna dock you marks or like mark you for anything like that if you hand in the same shader, just edited differently. As long as you don't hand in the exact same screenshots to both. Because if you hand in the exact same screenshots to both, that's a bit iffy. And uh yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But point is like do a bunch of things. See? You can do a bunch of cool stuff. If you were to do these are all edited effects. This isn't even a film grain shader anymore. It's a dissolve effect. Yeah, I would like a GIF. I would like to see something moving in the image. Just follow like my examples that I have in here. Like, obviously, GIFs don't really like grain effects. I should mention that the compression doesn't like it. So what I recommend is so if we go right here, there's a record button. I've allowed webms to be uploaded to the assignment. So if you just press record, you get a capture. and it's just a video. That's all. That is all. Um, that should be everything. If you're doing like a grainy effect, I highly recommend me. I didn't click here. I mean, you can change textures. Can apply this to anything. What do you mean? Yeah, Webm works. Webm works as well. Yeah, yeah, Webm works. I set the Dropbox to accept Webm. So if it doesn't accept Webm, please notify me. Because it should. Because I like if I were doing this, I would submit the Webms as well. I only converted them to GIFs so that they would play properly in the slideshow. That is the only reason why they're GIFs. But yeah, as you can see, like what I created here is I created a simple dissolve shader that dissolves to white. Also, Leo, if you just started out with nothing, make sure that number one doesn't have to be this shader. You can just edit the shader. Make it so it does something. I highly recommend using time. iTime is a great way to make things do things. Just try to understand the shader and figure out what it's doing. That's the whole point of this exercise. I want you to look at these post-processing effects and understand what's going on. Or try to understand what's going on. It's okay if you don't fully understand it. It's okay to not fully understand it, but if you can just change these values. Actually, Ethan, if you 1 second, I actually still have the the, the gifts that I took originally. But actually, this is something I learned recently, Ethan. So when you right click and press save video as, you get an MP4. But if you go up to here to share, click on download and GIF. If you go up to share, you can just press download GIF. And it downloads you a GIF. Yeah, I was told about this recently, very, very recently. I did not know it was a thing. I have been downloading as MP4 and then going to like MP4 to GIF every time. Here's all my Blender stuff. That makes sense. I don't use anything like that. I only use Gyazo for like very short GIFs. Because I want them to be short, and then I convert them into Discord emotes because it's funny. But yeah, point is, you can change the entire effect just by changing one number. If I increase this, it increases the amount that it goes to white. I believe if I change this to 1, yeah. See, the less dots there are left. Also, the faster it is. because I'm multiplying noise by time. So the more increased that MDF is, or I'm multiplying MDF by all of this. So this speeds up this effect. The higher MDF is, the faster that this effect is. And that's something that you learn just by changing the values. If I want it to be a slow effect, I want it to be more intense effect that never actually goes back to full. I would rather it be black though. Like, but like, these are all things that you can do in like seconds, and these are all really cool effects. Yeah, but that's exactly my point. Just looking at the shader and like messing around with the values, it teaches you something. You've learned something. You have benefited from this. Just messing around with this, I've learned that MDF like makes this effect go faster or slower. But Shader Toy is very similar to what you'll get in Shader Toy is very similar to what you'll get in GLSL. But we're going to be writing effects like this film grain. Yes, yes. Specifically, I asked for before and after. Before modifications, after modifications. Even if you didn't get one of before modifications, you can literally just hold Control Z on the page, and it'll go back to what it was when you started. So it's pretty simple. Um, but yeah, just make a cool effect. Just do something fun. Have fun with it. Don't just change color or edit things. Like actually go in and change values. Go in and see how you can do things. You can do it now. You can do it later. But from now on, I am going to move on to introducing OTTER Intermediate. And this is more specifically for the people that haven't used OTTER now, I guess. Um, I did not expect it to be as many. So, setting up OTTER. So the first thing I want you to do is obviously go to this link. Now you'll notice I actually have I have the exact same README in here, so you can see all the stuff. Using OTTER, pretty easy. I would hope. Don't you need intros to CG to take this? Some people can take Alan, if you're wondering, some people can take intro to CG years before. They could have taken it before, but failed other prerequisites. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Sometimes some other prerequisites are just really hard. I believe intermediate CG requires that you pass animation algorithms, which is, in my year, Dr. Hogue taught it. That was a hard course. Very, very hard course. Exactly. No, exactly. Exactly, Jaden. I completely agree with you. And yes, Jonathan, if you already know this, it's okay to leave. I should mention I won't be showing today how to program in OTTER, because if I'm honest with you, I'm still learning OTTER. I know how to program graphics, so it's easier for me. But and assuming you know back from whenever you took Intro to CG, it should be pretty easy. From what I've seen, OTTER is pretty standard and really well done. But I'm assuming you'll know how to clone a, GitHub, or you can literally just download it as a zip if you really want. Doesn't matter. Um, It's completely up to you. It's whatever you want to do. Uh, Worth mentioning though. So if you know Otter, this tutorial it's more than basically done. It's completely done. The only thing that I've changed from Otter, like the original, is I added a graphics module and a base application module. The applications just includes like the eye behavior, the basic behaviors that you guys implemented in class. I'm assuming you implemented in class. I actually don't know. It's either that or he implemented them and put them in the framework. Timing, transform, all of that kind of stuff is all in. It's all in there. Um, and then the graphics module includes all of the graphics content. Everything that has to do with graphics is in here. And the only difference from this from this push to the, maybe you just click on history. Yeah, here it is. So the only difference, the only things that changed, obviously these are all pluses because they're new files, but the changed files are all like, all I did was, see how these don't have, these are using the brackets instead of the quotes. That's all. Will I be going through the assignment? The assignment is, as far as I know, I believe Tom went through it already, or at least he said he did. The assignment, I won't be giving you the answers for this because this assignment 1 is review from intro to CG. It's no new content. There's not a single new thing in it. And you can do it in any, like, as long as it's a graphics framework that you've written, you can do it in, if it's your framework or if it's Otter. Yeah. You just need to have Thong lighting, which is a requirement for intro to like finish intro to CG, and have an object loader. Yeah, those are the only requirements. It's right here. But all you need is you need an object loader so that you can load in multiple objects. You need a camera, but you need a camera to render anything, anyways. So you should already have that. You should have an object that just, you can put it on a sine loop and have it so that a frog, like I did an assignment like this and in my year, and we had a sign that just made a frog jump into the air. So you can just do something like that, and I would count that as marks. I would give full marks for this. Scene should be aesthetically pleasing. Don't make it just a random mishmash of things. That's pretty much the gist of it. For example, actually, here I have Otter right here. Actually, that's one thing that I will show. So Otter. So this is one cool thing. So when you download Otter, this is for all the new people. When you download Otter, it will be empty. There will be like nothing in it. You won't have any projects to open other than this one that I've created right here, graphics test. You won't have anything. And then there'll be samples in here, but they can't do anything either. So this is a multi-project solution. And what that means is you can either create a new project running the bat file, or you can just run this and it'll create the solution for you, and link all of these projects that are already here. And so because I already have a project in here, I'm not going to create a new project. I'm just going to run pre-make build, and you'll see this. It looks through everything, adds them all. Can I please? I would highly recommend not copying that down. Go to the slideshow. It's up on Canvas. I can just send it in the chat if I'm honest. but the slideshow is up on Canvas. Oh, actually, this is a different one. Um, it's this one. No problem, no problem, no problem. That is the other otter. The only like literally the only difference between these two is I just put it into a module so that whenever you create a new, so if I ever create a new project with you guys, I don't have to have all of the graphics. Like if you look in here inside my source folder, all I have is these. This is all the files that I have. If you would like, it's not necessarily required, but if you want to, yes. If you haven't modified the old otter, if you have modified the old otter, then there's no reason to download the new one. Uh, yes, yes, yeah. In fact, it's encouraged that you use your GDW engine. That's why in the assignment, like in the details, it says specifically you may use the assignment framework provided by your TA. You can use that one. It's just not required. You can use any one you want, as long as it's not Unity. Because if it's Unity, then, well, this is just all done for you. But yeah, this assignment is just meant to be a rehash of everything you did in intro, just to make sure that you're up to snuff, just to make sure that you're up to speed, all of that. It's relatively simple. Wouldn't recommend you use ours. Ooh. But point is, once you've done pre-make build, it'll create this solution. This is for the people that specifically haven't used this before. And I'll go through the video before I upload it and find the timestamp where I start talking about Otter. And I'll leave that in the description or in the comments or something. Um, just to make it easier for the people who haven't used Otter. But yeah. So now that I've opened this up, now that I've created everything, it linked everything. So all the modules are here, dependencies, samples. I forgot to delete these. Well, you have your animation algorithm samples, I guess. Going to be deleting those for next week. Those will not be in there next week. But point is, so graphics test right here. All I did actually was I moved a whole bunch of the backend stuff into a class. Like the initialization, I didn't want it to happen all in main. I hate having everything happen in main. So I just moved a bunch of these functions into a handler. It's just an abstract class that has all statics. It's relatively simple. And then I just replaced some of the calls with backend handler calls. That's all. That's all that's changed here. Everything here is actually identical. Like if I run this right now, everything here is identical to what you did in your last tutorial last semester, or what the Intro to CG class did in their last tutorial. If you weren't in Intro to CG, then obviously this will be new to you. But I will say that the last semester's Intro to CG class should have no issue with this assignment. And I'm gonna be honest, if you weren't in Intro to CG last semester and you used this, you used or you've never used Otter, uh, use the one that I've linked, uh, because that has most of the requirements already, and it has examples for everything. So for example, like what he said was what I hate the camera control, but One important thing to note, this is not aesthetically pleasing. This is not at all aesthetically it's not pleasing at all. Like this out here, very pretty. Very pretty. Random monkeys everywhere? No, not pretty. Not aesthetically pleasing. Random boxes everywhere? Not zen at all. Okay, see now if I don't see a zen garden, uh you can't hand in specifically this as your assignment. No, but the code in here, yeah, that's free reign. You can still use it. I think so at least. Because I'm using it to teach myself how to use this framework. For example, like how to learn how to use the shaders, how to learn how to use the camera stuff, how to learn how to use the mesh stuff. Can we use the height map stuff we did with this code? Go for it. As long as it isn't a direct copy of this and you've actually changed it, like implemented new models, did anything like that, added things to it. Like the whole point is this is from Intro to CG. You should be looking at this content and figuring out, hey, uh, I did this in this class. I did this here. I did this there. I remember this. You should be the whole point. This assignment is yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. You are allowed to use your GDW models and textures. 100%. In fact, I'm sure me and Tom would be absolutely like it would be awesome to see that because it also gives us a look at where you guys are GDW wise and introduces us to what your GDW ideas are, and I think that's a very good thing. You'll notice Tom is very specific about making sure that you guys are all caught up on GDW and making sure that everything's being done. In that he has like GDW reviews every few weeks on the same days as your on the same weeks as your GDW review, where he wants you to show progress on your graphics code. Like implementing frame buffers would count as progress, which is something we're going to do in the tutorials. But yeah, your assignment 1 is pretty much just use this, create something pretty. Like these are objects. These are objects. These are all objects. Just replace them. Replace them. Replace the objects. Replace them and place them better is something that I'm specifically asking for. And if I don't, if I see the exact same, like if all I see is the position or is the model change and all of the positions are the same, there's going to be problems. You're definitely not going to get proper marks. If you make a pretty monkey shrine, awesome. I honestly, I love meme submissions. If you make your submission like super memey, if you use like 3D models of like the emojis, I'll laugh. I'll think it's hilarious. Like if you enjoy, like all we want is for you to enjoy yourself. Like that's what me and Tom both want. Speak of Vengeance. That's exactly what I was referencing because I'm working on that with Spratly. But my point is have fun with this assignment. This is definitely the easiest assignment you will have this year. It is all I am asking you to do is to make a funny scene that you enjoyed making. A funny scene that you enjoyed making. That's all I'm asking for. Just make something that you enjoyed. Make something that includes like lighting. Make something which is already right here, obviously. Make something that includes like positional boxes. Make something that includes all of that. This is just meant to be review. This is essentially a free 5% of your grade. I'm glad. That's the point. I want it. I want it to sound I want it to sound enjoyable. I want it to be enjoyable. I want everyone to enjoy CG. I very much think that CG is something that everybody can get into. Do we have mouse input for the camera? I believe in the requirements, Tom states that. Oh, I accidentally opened up Steam. In the requirements, Tom states that. Yeah, predefined movement. You can just have it move around the world by itself. Um, or it can be controlled using like things like that. But there's also movement already in here. But like that's cuz movement is a basic. So the thing about this is like movement is a basic thing that at this point we expect you to already have something like from your tutorials last semester. Like we expect like all of that. Which is why I'm not hiding your sample code from your tutorial, which is why I didn't just delete it all and hide it. I want you to reference back to your intro to CG stuff. I want you to reference that stuff. I want you to use your first semester stuff. Because if you don't use it, then it's just going to sit there. I think it's important to reference back to work that you've done before. It's very important, especially as a programmer. Even as a non-programmer, I think art, it's important to reference old work that you did. It's important to look at it. It's important to see the changes. Or to think about what you would change now where you are. Like I look back at my old work all the time and try to figure out where I would change things. Like for example, you guys are the first year that used the framework that I wrote. Uh, I am sorry for a lot of the issues, and I am sorry that I wasn't able to be your TA. Looking back now, there's a lot of things that I would change, and I did change a lot of those things over the summer this past year. And now having taught it, there is another thing. There is another like semester worth of stuff that I would change now. Like for example, Jason was removed entirely. The Jason stuff was too confusing. That was a request from like from the like I was requested to add in the Jason stuff. I thought it was a good idea at the time. I completely agreed with it. I didn't I didn't say anything, but it was too confusing. It was too hard to use. The way that Jason library works was just way too confusing. Even Dr. Hogue got confused by it. I ended up going to his office hours once and helping someone figure out how to fix something. Because he didn't know how to. Oh, I'm sorry, Jaden. I don't think Jaden knows I'm the one that wrote it. Um. Anyways, like SpriteLib had a lot of issues. SpriteLib 3 had a lot of issues. But I'll tell you, you guys never got to see SpriteLib 2 or SpriteLib 1. SpriteLib 2 had nothing. It had nothing. There were no tutorials for it. There were no nothing. There wasn't anything in SpriteLib 2. Yeah, I ignored the JSON stuff too when I used it as well. SpriteLib 2 Oh, Jaden. Oh, Jaden. Oh, yeah, no. SpriteLib 2 was bad. SpriteLib 2 was bad. I rewrote it into SpriteLib 3. Oh, Jaden, you weren't in that course. Okay, okay, okay. I wrote a brand new SpriteLib, SpriteLib 3.0. There were tutorials that came with it. They weren't amazing, but they were better than what we had with SpriteLib 2, because I used SpriteLib 2 as well. My year used SpriteLib 2 as well. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense, because I was super confused. Um, SpriteLib 2 was horrible. I used SpriteLib 2. SpriteLib 3, uh, I did my best to remove all the stuff. No, I actually just called it SpriteLib 3 again. I kept it as SpriteLib 3. All I was doing was adjusting some stuff. But yeah. I called it version 2.0. Yeah, I did. I did indeed call it version 2.0. Um I did my best with this one though. There are actual I did video tutorials for this one. Every week there was a video posted. No. I don't think that there's no more on today's tutorial. At this point it's just talking about graphics stuff. Um but yeah, I made video tutorials for it, but like I think it's very important to reference back on your own work. So very much use your intro to CG stuff. Use your other classes stuff. Use your animation algorithms stuff. I want you to use it all. I want you to make graphics fun for you, and whatever that means, just make it fun for you. Wait, did you use Cocos or SpriteLib 2? Are you sure you used SpriteLib 2? Because I know Steven taught Cocos. Cocos 2D. Use both? Oh god, so did we. So did we. The only difference is we didn't have Steven. We had Kyle. I love Kyle though. But Kyle also didn't use SpriteLib 2, so or Cocos. And our year was the first one to ever use Cocos, so Cocos was bad. Cocos was very bad. But this year, people have made amazing games with the framework, and I'm very proud to see it. Um, yeah, I am gonna stop the recording now. For anyone that's watching, still at the end, uh, your assignment should be pretty easy, assuming you're using, the stuff you already have from CG. All we're expecting you to do is look back through your notes and look back through your content, and just learn. And that's all. Have a great day, everybody.